Hello again. John in chapter 4 of the Revelation had been summoned to what I call the room with a view, to see God's unfolding plan from a perspective other than an earthbound one. We too need to have the perspective God's word provides for us. Otherwise, we're too easily swayed by the swirl of events around us at ground level. And after witnessing the magnificence of the nerve center of all creation, the throne room and worship of the Creator, then in chapter 5, John says, I saw a scroll in the right hand of the one seated on the throne. It had writing on both sides and was sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a mighty angel proclaiming in a loud voice, Who is worthy to break the seals and open the scroll? But no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth was able to open the scroll or look inside it. And I began to weep bitterly because no one was found worthy to open the scroll or look inside it. And then one of the elders said to me, Don't weep. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has triumphed to open the scroll and its 7 seals. And then John saw a lamb who came and took the scroll because he was worthy. Now the Creator's intention for humankind was stewardship of the earth as a colony of heaven. We were entrusted with unfolding the destiny of this newly created realm that was unlike God's realm. This was a time realm with a beginning and a plan and a sublime destiny, and mankind was to nurture it hand in hand with God into plenitude and productivity and into destiny. And Adam and Eve and the earth were not created perfect. They were created good and sinless to be perfected or completed through obedience. This process also applied to Jesus, the last Adam, for whom and through whom all things exist, we read, to make the author of their salvation perfect or complete through what he suffered. Jesus was altogether good and righteous, yet was perfected or completed in his purpose by willingly submitting to all the Father sent him to do, doing for us what Adam had not done. So the fullness of destiny, the perfecting of this created realm, was to be in our hands as co-functionaries with our Creator. We could have unsealed the scroll of destiny and brought it to all its fulfillment, but sin prevented that, and now we cannot see what it would have looked like. The story was changed by transgression, and how it might have been was kept from us. A new and different story has now been written, and of necessity it has now become a story of redemption. But who could break the seals and open the scroll of the new redemption story? No one was found worthy to unroll the changed story. We do know, however, that it is still, though changed, a story with a glorious completion. It has 7 seals. Now, however, they could only be unsealed by a new steward, the Lamb without spot, already slain, as it were, to pay the redemption price. In my view, it was a layered scroll, like that pictured in the inset on your screen, so that it would unroll one portion at a time. When one section was complete, the next seal could be broken and that portion unrolled. The one known as the Lion of the tribe of Judah, who in his incarnation lays aside his lionhood to become a lamb, steps forward and takes the scroll. And it's written on both sides because there were destined to be 2 parts to the now changed story. Although the Lamb was effectively slain from the foundation of the world, because ours is a time realm, that event had to occur at a point along the line called time. The event of Calvary, therefore, had a before and an after. And in my view, what led up to that event in time occupied one side of the scroll. The other side was the story since then. Now, to what was shown in chapters 6 and 7 of the Revelation. As the first seal is broken, we see man on a white horse as a messianic pretender riding out with a bow in his hand and a crown on his head, with the intent of conquering. This is man believing he has the wherewithal to overcome all that now ails the earth and humankind. His agenda is self-salvation. He rides out so valiantly in chapter 6, but tragically we note that his self-deception is followed by 3 further horses as the next 3 seals are opened. They are the red horse of conflict, the black horse of lack, and lastly, the pale horse of death. Deceived man rides out on his white horse, conquering and to conquer, writes John, but all that follows is actually failure. Man's attempts to redeem his situation so often end up making matters worse, and his efforts are followed inevitably by the red horse of conflict, the black horse of scarcity, and the pale horse of death is not far behind. And that's the sad record of Earth's history, as men of every persuasion have ridden out on their white horses of this or that ideology, this or that scheme or agenda, but all of these have fallen short and are followed by conflict, famine, and death. The opening of the 5th seal reveals the inevitable martyrdom of those who have not followed that path, but have instead maintained allegiance to God and to his word. And John sees them at a place near the heart of God, under the altar, crying out for justice. And then the 6th seal brings a glimpse of how the mess begins to be wound up with great shakings and preludes to judgment as cosmic upheaval comes as the inevitable result of sin. It reveals too that prior to the opening of the 7th and the last seal, and despite all the mess created by humankind, God has withheld judgment until he has successfully called out a complete Israel, represented by that symbolic number of completion, 12 times 12, or 144,000, and along with them a fulfilled and vast number of Gentiles. And finally, behind the 7th seal, we are shown the end events as the 7 trumpets of final judgment begin to be blown. The first 4 trumpets bring the consequences of human sin upon the land, sea, rivers, and light. The Old Testament reveals a direct spiritual linkage between the land and human sinfulness. God said that the land itself was corrupted by sin, and therefore continued sin continues to corrupt it. Humans who think they can sin with impunity are ignorant of this link. And I'm not talking about what environmentalists think is the worst kind of sin. All sin affects creation and productivity because God holds fruitfulness in his hand and under his control. And with the upheavals, unrepentant humankind, the rich and the mighty who depended upon themselves and rejected God's grace, begin at last to realize their plight and call for the rocks and the mountains to fall on them, as it were, to hide them from the face of this one seated on the throne whom they have despised. What this all points to is the need for one to whom salvation truly belongs. And after the long passage of history represented by the 7 opened seals, we eventually see the true rider on the white horse, the one who truly can save, riding onto the stage in chapter 19. God bless you, and there'll be more in the next session.